Introduction. I got married, but the bride wasn't the icy female CEO I'd been engaged to for 3 years. Instead, it was the girl who had been crying her eyes out in the audience, the lovesick shadow who had silently adored me for years. Everyone thought I'd lost my mind, ruining my life out of spite. But they didn't know I had been waiting for this day for a long time. This farce of a business marriage was over, and my real show was just beginning. Mr. Thorne, Ms. Sterling says if you want her to step onto the stage, you have to transfer the ownership of the East River Waterfront Project to her personal name. Right now, at the wedding venue, the officiant was passionately setting the mood on stage, but in my earpiece, I heard the voice of my assistant, Marcus, distorted by anxiety. I stood in the center of the stage, the spotlight blinding, the gaze of hundreds of guests burning into me like needles. I smiled, not a cold sneer, but a genuine smile born of the absurdity of it all. The East River Waterfront Project was the cornerstone of the Thorne family empire, worth billions. It was the legacy my grandfather had fought tooth and nail to build. Victoria Sterling, my fiancée, the CEO of Sterling Corp., chose this exact moment, with the wedding about to start, to hold every guest hostage, using the reputation of both our families as a weapon to force me into signing this unequal treaty. Ruthless and incredibly stupid. Tell her impossible, I said calmly into the microphone-shaped cufflink. But Mr. Thorne, the guests are waiting. If we delay any longer, both our families will become the laughingstock of the entire New York social circle. Marcus's voice was practically begging. Laughingstock. The curve of my lips widened. Then let's make this joke a little more entertaining. I'm a traveler. 3 days ago, I went from being a corporate drone working 80-hour weeks to waking up inside this novel titled The Ice Queen's contract lover. I became Julian Thorne, the cannon fodder fiancé, rich but vacuous, a playboy looked down upon by the heroine, Victoria Sterling. According to the original plot, today I would humiliatingly agree to Victoria's demands. After the marriage, she would despise me even more, getting entangled with the true protagonist while I wore the horns of cuckold. And I, Julian Thorne, would spiral into hate-fueled madness, courting death until the male and female lead joined forces to bankrupt my family and leave me destitute. Screw the plot. Screw hate-fueled madness. I, Julian Thorne, just wanted to coast. I wanted to enjoy this filthy, rich, uncomplicated life. The gym, fine dining, vintage wines, wasn't that enough? Why hang myself on a frozen tree? Mr. Thorne, Marcus's voice came again. I cut the comms. My gaze swept over the faces in the crowd, some curious, some gloating, until it finally settled on an inconspicuous seat in the corner. A girl sat there. She was wearing a pale blue cocktail dress. Her makeup, which should have been exquisite, was streaked with tears. Her shoulders were shaking, and she was biting her lip hard to keep from sobbing aloud. Emily Vance. In the original book, she was my #1 simp. A foolishly lovely girl who had silently loved the original Julian for years, watching him chase Victoria, watching him get engaged, and today, forcing a smile to attend his wedding. In the later parts of the book, she was the only one willing to bring me a warm meal when the whole world had turned against me. Unfortunately, the original Julian died without ever knowing her feelings. But I knew. Not only did I know, but I also knew that this seemingly ordinary girl had a family background far more terrifying than the Ice Queen CEO, Victoria Sterling. She was the perfect angel investor who could let me live comfortably in luxury for the rest of my life. I stepped forward under the stunned gaze of the entire room, walking down the stage step by step. The crisp sound of high heels approached rapidly. Victoria's mother, the always haughty Mrs. Eleanor Sterling, led a few Sterling family members to block my path aggressively. Julian, what is the meaning of this? Are you getting cold feet? Let me tell you, if you don't go through with this wedding today, where will the Sterling family put their face? And don't expect the Thorne family to save theirs either. Eleanor's voice was shrill, her face twisted with anger. I stopped and looked at her calmly. Eleanor, respect is earned, not given. If Victoria wants the East River land, fine. Tell her to come talk to me herself, using these underhanded tactics to blackmail me at our wedding. Does she look down on me, or does she look down on herself? My voice wasn't loud, but every word drifted clearly into the ears of those around us. The murmurs of the guests instantly grew louder. What? Demanding land at the altar? The Sterlings are being too greedy, aren't they? That's the foundation of the Thorne Empire. This isn't a marriage. It's a robbery. Eleanor's face went from green to white. She hadn't expected me to air this dirty laundry in public. You're lying. Our Victoria isn't that kind of person. She was still stubborn. Whether she is or isn't, you know in your heart. I couldn't be bothered to waste breath on her. I stepped around her and continued walking toward that corner. Everyone's eyes followed me. They probably assumed I was going to drag Victoria out of hiding. I walked up to Emily Vance. She looked up. Those eyes, red and swollen from crying, were filled with confusion and panic like a startled deer. I stood before her, ignoring the noise and shock surrounding us. Then, right in front of everyone, I dropped to one knee. From my pocket, I pulled out the diamond ring worth millions, originally intended for Victoria Sterling. The entire ballroom went dead silent. Everyone thought they were hallucinating. Eleanor Sterling's eyes looked like they were about to pop out of her head. Emily was stunned too. She stared at me blankly, forgetting even to cry. I looked up at her beautiful, tear-streaked face and revealed the most sincere smile I had shown since arriving in this world. Victoria Sterling isn't marrying me. You, Emily Vance, are you willing to marry me? Time seemed to stop. The air solidified. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone's brain had crashed. They stood with mouths agape, eyes wide, staring blankly at this absurd scene offstage. The heir to the Thorne family, proposing to another woman at his own wedding? In front of hundreds of guests and the bride's family? This wasn't just madness. This was nailing a plaque that read ultimate humiliation right onto the Sterling family's face. Emily's reaction was even more raw. Her face went pale, drained of blood, her body trembling uncontrollably. She looked at me as if I were an alien. Julian, don't joke around. Today is your wedding with Victoria. Her voice was thick with tears, quiet as a mosquito. She isn't marrying me. I repeated, my tone firm, without a trace of humor. Just now, she chose to abandon our wedding for the East Riverland. I held up the ring, the diamond refracting brilliant light under the chandeliers. So, I am currently single, and I have the right to propose. I'm asking you, Emily, will you marry me? My gaze was burning, locking onto her tight. I knew this was too much of a shock for her. It was like someone trekking through a desert for years, dying of thirst, suddenly stumbling upon an oasis. She didn't dare believe it. She probably thought it was a mirage. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes again, smashing onto the back of her hand. She wanted to shake her head, to refuse this absurd proposal, but a voice in her heart was screaming frantically. Say yes. This was the scene she had dreamed of for so many years, even if it was just a joke born of his impulse. Emily opened her mouth, but couldn't make a sound. Julian Thorne, you bastard. How dare you humiliate the Sterling family like this? A scream broke the silence. Eleanor Sterling finally reacted, like an enraged lioness. She charged at me with a ferocious expression, raising her hand to slap me. I didn't even turn my head. Behind me, Marcus and 2 bodyguards immediately stepped forward, firmly restraining her. Let go of me. Julian, how has my daughter wronged you that you would treat her this way? Eleanor struggled madly, screaming hysterically. How has she wronged me? I stood up, turned around, my eyes cold. You should ask your good daughter. In her eyes, am I, Julian Thorne, worth less than a plot of dirt? You should ask her, in these 3 years, has she ever looked me in the eye once? Aside from business and profit, has she ever spoken half a sentence of personal conversation with me? And you should definitely ask her, who is the person she truly holds in her heart? With every sentence I spoke, Eleanor's face paled shade. The last sentence struck her like lightning, silencing her instantly. This, Eleanor stammered, her eyes darting away, not daring to look at me. I ignored her and turned back to Emily. Her eyes were still struggling, hesitating. I knew I needed to add more fuel to the fire. Emily, I'm not joking, and I'm not doing this out of spite. My voice became very soft, very gentle. I'm just tired. I don't want to chase an iceberg that will never melt for me anymore. I want to find someone warm, someone to live a peaceful life with. I want to go home every day and see a smiling face, eat a warm meal, not face piles of cold legal documents. I want the person I love to love me back. I looked into her eyes, enunciating every word. And that person I know is you. Boom. It was as if fireworks had exploded inside Emily's mind. All her reason, all her hesitation, was shattered by my final sentence. He knew. He actually knew I liked him. He wasn't doing this out of spite. He really wanted to be with me. An immense wave of ecstasy drowned her, making her forget everything, forgetting that this was someone else's wedding, forgetting the strange looks around them. In her eyes, there was only me. She looked at me, smiling through her tears, and then nodded heavily. I will. I smiled. I slowly slid the ring onto her ring finger. The size was perfect, as if custom made. Of course it was. I had asked Marcus to investigate everything about her long ago, including her ring size. I stood up, took her hand, and led her to the center of the stage. The guests below had gone from shocked to numb, and now from numb to exhilarated. This gossip was too big, too thrilling. Tomorrow, no, tonight, the entire upper crust of New York was going to explode. I picked up the officiant's microphone and cleared my throat. Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for the slight detour. Now, let me reintroduce everyone. I raised our clasped hands high, the diamond on the ring flashing with blinding light. This, Emily Vance, is Julian Thorne's true bride today. As the words fell, I turned my head and gently pressed a kiss on Emily's flushed cheek. Below the stage, scattered applause rang out, drowned out by the sound of sharp intakes of breath and suppressed chatter. And Eleanor Sterling, held back by bodyguards, watched us looking lovey-dovey on stage, shook with rage, rolled her eyes back, and fainted straight away. In the bridal suite backstage, Victoria Sterling gripped her phone, listening to the words coming from outside. My declaration that Emily was the true bride, and her face turned an iron gray. On the table beside her lay a drafted asset transfer agreement. She had thought Julian would compromise, as he had countless times before, no matter how excessive her demands were. She had thought she was the absolute protagonist and controller of this wedding. She had miscalculated. The man who had always obeyed her every word had given her a resounding slap in the face in the most drastic, humiliating way possible. Emily Vance. Victoria chewed on the name, her eyes filled with cold fury and a trace of panic she hadn't even realized herself. She shoved the door open and rushed out. She wanted to see exactly who dared to steal her groom at her own wedding. When Victoria Sterling, wearing that expensive custom wedding gown, rushed to the front of the stage, what she saw was the image of us kissing. At that moment, her expression was magnificent. Shock, anger, humiliation, disbelief. Various emotions intertwined on her usually icy face, making her look somewhat twisted. "Julian," she screamed, interrupting the tender moment. I slowly released Emily, turned around, and looked at her calmly. "Oh, you finally decided to come out?" I raised an eyebrow. "I thought you were going to wait in the bridal suite until the end of time." I shielded Emily behind me. She clutched the corner of my jacket nervously, peeking out with half her head, looking timidly at the legendary Ice Queen CEO. Victoria's gaze scraped over Emily like a knife before landing on my face. "What is the meaning of this? Are you taking revenge on me?" Her voice trembled slightly with rage. "Revenge?" I looked as if I'd heard the world's biggest joke. "Ms. Sterling, you think too highly of yourself. I'm simply stating a fact. If you aren't willing to marry, there's always someone who is." "You." Victoria's chest heaved violently. "You're canceling the wedding for this. This low-class woman? Do you know the cost of canceling? The cooperation between our families, the Thorne stock price." "Stop." I raised a hand to cut her off. "First, Emily is now my wife. Please show some respect. Second, I didn't cancel the wedding. The person who canceled was you. You chose to refuse to take the stage for a piece of land. Third, regarding the cooperation and stock price, I smiled, showing my teeth. That's something for me to worry about. Ms. Sterling needn't concern herself. My attitude, my words, every syllable was a thorn driving deep into Victoria's heart. She had never seen this side of Julian Thorne. The old Julian always carried a hint of fawning, a touch of caution, wagging his tail like a big dog, no matter how cold she was. But this man before her had calm eyes and an indifferent tone, as if looking at an unreasonable stranger. This feeling of being completely disregarded gave her an unprecedented sense of panic and anger. "Julian, don't regret this." She gritted her teeth. "The only thing I regret is agreeing to this business alliance 3 years ago," I said, enunciating each word. "Now I'm cutting my losses. I couldn't be happier." With that, I stopped looking at her, took Emily's hand, and turned to leave. "Let the wedding continue." I tossed a sentence to the dumbfounded officiant. "Huh? Oh. The officiant woke from his trance, hurriedly grabbed the microphone, and began stammering through the process. Behind us were Victoria's eyes, practically spitting fire, and the increasingly loud discussions of the guests. Did Julian get a personality transplant? Since when is he so tough? Tough? I think he's crazy. Offending the Sterlings for some nobody wild girl? He's going to suffer for this. Hard to say. Did you see Julian's aura? Just now? He didn't look anything like the pushover rumors say. Who cares? It's a great show. The Sterling heiress, swapped out by the groom on her wedding day. Ha ha. This news is enough to make me laugh for a year. I turned a deaf ear to these comments. I was tightening my grip on Emily's hand. Her palm was ice cold, covered in sweat, her body still slightly trembling. I could feel her fear and unease. I stopped, turned my head, and whispered in her ear, "Don't be afraid. How about this?" Warm breath brushed against her ear, and Emily's face flushed red instantly, the color spreading all the way to her neck. Her heart was beating so fast it felt like it would jump out, but the fear coiling in her chest really did dissipate quite a bit. She looked up at my profile, her eyes filled with reliance and adoration. This man was her hero, a supreme hero who had stepped on multicolored clouds to save her from the mire of inferiority and unrequited love. The rest of the wedding proceeded in a strange, yet excited atmosphere. The Sterling family had long since fled with tails between their legs, carrying the unconscious Eleanor. Victoria stood rooted to the spot like an ice sculpture, staring daggers at us. My parents had complex expressions, but mostly a sense of relief. They had long been dissatisfied with Victoria's arrogance, but held back due to business ties. Now that I had proactively solved this problem, they were happy to see it happen. As for Emily's parents, they hadn't come today at all. In their eyes, Emily was just attending a friend's wedding. Who could have guessed she would marry herself off? I estimated they were probably on their way right now, with machetes. But I wasn't afraid, because I knew they would agree. During the toasts, I kept Emily by my side, blocking most of the alcohol for her. A few tactless people tried to come up and probe into Emily's background or make snide remarks, but I pushed them back with just a look. "Mr. Thorne, congratulations. It's just this new Mrs. Thorne. Which family is she from? How come we haven't seen her before?" A greasy-haired trust fund baby held up a wine glass, smiling maliciously. I swirled my glass, looking at him. "What? I need to report my marriage license to you now." The trust fund kid's face stiffened, and he laughed awkwardly. I wouldn't dare. Just curious." "Curiosity killed the cat," I said coolly. "Minding your own business is better than anything." With that, I pulled Emily away, leaving the guy standing there, his face flashing red and white. Emily followed behind me and whispered, "Julian, you didn't have to do that. I don't mind. You're my wife. Disrespecting you is slapping me in the face." I squeezed her hand. "From now on, anyone who dares to make you suffer, I'll make their whole family suffer." My tone was flat, but Emily felt a rush of heat in her heart. She knew this man was protecting her. This feeling of being firmly chosen and protected was something she had never experienced. The wedding finally ended. I took Emily back to our, originally mine and Victoria's marital home, a massive penthouse overlooking the river in the city center. As soon as we entered, Emily looked uneasy. She stood in the foyer, twisting her fingers, afraid to move. The apartment still held some wedding decorations, red double happiness symbols, scattered rose petals, all reminding her of how unreal this was. Should I go home first? My parents. They probably don't know yet," she whispered. "No need." I took off my suit jacket, tossed it onto the sofa, and started loosening my tie. "They already know." "Huh?" Emily started. I waved my phone. There was a message just sent by Marcus. "Report, Mr. Thorne. We've already briefed Chairman Vance and Mrs. Vance. They said a married daughter is like spilled water. Since you and the madam have already registered the marriage, they have no objections. They just ask that you bring the madam home tomorrow to pay your respects." I handed the phone to Emily. She looked at the message, her eyes widening. "My parents just agreed like that." She mumbled to herself, feeling her worldview shattering. In her memory, her father was a violent temper who meant what he said. "What else?" I walked up to her, reached out to lift her chin, forcing her to look at me. "Did you expect them to tie you up and return you to the factory?" My warm fingertips touched her skin, and Emily's body stiffened, two clouds of red instantly flying onto her cheeks. I didn't mean that," she stammered. "I know." Looking at her eyelashes, trembling with nervousness, I chuckled low in my throat. "Emily, from today on, you are Julian Thorne's wife. This is your home." I leaned down, close to her ear, speaking in a voice only the two of us could hear. "So, tonight, you aren't going anywhere." Night deepened, the city's clamor shut out by the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. The room was filled only with the sound of our slightly rushed breathing. Emily was as tense as a quail placed on a grill, stiff all over, not knowing where to put her hands. Watching her innocent and cute appearance, a bit of mischief rose in my heart. I didn't rush to do anything. Instead, I turned into the kitchen and took out a bottle of Moscato and two exquisite glasses from the fridge. "Drink a little?" I held up the bottle and shook it at her. I'm not very good at drinking, Emily whispered a refusal. It's okay. This is low alcohol content. It's sweet. Just treat it like juice. I poured 2 glasses on my own accord and handed one to her. The amber liquid swirled gently in the glass, emitting a sweet, fruity aroma. Emily hesitated for a moment, but took it. We sat on the sofa, silent for a while. The atmosphere was a bit subtle. Today, thank you. Emily finally spoke first. Thank you for what? I took a sip of the wine. Sweet, but not cloying, smooth texture. Thank you for choosing me. When she said this, her voice was very soft, like a feather, carrying a trace of uncertainty. I put down the glass, turned my head, and looked at her seriously. Emily, I'll say it again. I wasn't acting out of spite, nor was it charity. I chose you because you are worth it. Why? She summoned her courage to ask the biggest doubt in her heart. I'm not as beautiful as Victoria, nor as capable. Beautiful? I scoffed. That face of hers is as cold as a morgue slab. What's good about it? As for capability, a woman who needs to blackmail her fiancé at a wedding to get ahead. No matter how capable, her character is worrisome. I reached out, gently stroking her cheek. Her skin was fine and smooth, feeling excellent to the touch. You are 10,000 times better than her. You are kind, warm, and willing to give silently for the person you like without asking for anything in return. You would secretly slip me a piece of candy when everyone else was mocking me. You would send anonymous text messages to encourage me when I was down. Did you think I didn't know who put that carton of warm milk in my desk every morning for 3 years in high school? With every sentence I spoke, Emily's eyes widened a fraction. Her small mouth parted slightly, too shocked to speak. Those secrets she thought she had buried deep in her heart. Acts she thought were done without anyone knowing. He knew them all. You knew. Her voice was trembling. I knew. I withdrew my hand, picked up my glass, and drained it. The old Julian was a bastard. He couldn't see your worth. But now, I looked at her, my gaze profound. I'm not him. Emily was completely stunned. She didn't understand what I meant by the last sentence. But she could clearly feel that the man before her was truly different from the boy in her memories who always chased someone else's shadow. He was mature, powerful, gentle, and carried a hint of mystery that was hard to fathom. More importantly, he saw all her good qualities. A massive, warm current enveloped her, turning the grievances and bitterness accumulated over the years into sweetness in this instant. Her eyes reddened again, but this time it wasn't from sadness. She mimicked my action, picking up the glass and draining the wine in one gulp. The liquid, spicy yet sweet, slid down her throat, instantly dyeing her cheeks a crimson red. I will be good to you in the future. She looked at me, her eyes incredibly firm, as if taking an oath. I know. I smiled and poured her another glass. That night, we talked a lot. We talked about the high school we both attended, about those blurred memories of youth. Catalyzed by alcohol, Emily gradually talked more. She dropped all her defenses and restraint, revealing a charmingly naive side, like a little girl. She would bury her head in a pillow out of shame when I mentioned her embarrassing moment from back then, and she would giggle foolishly when recalling a sweet instant. I listened quietly, chiming in occasionally, refilling her glass. I discovered this girl was even more interesting than I imagined. She could paint and had won national awards. She could bake all kinds of desserts. She said it was because she heard I like sweets. She also loved small animals. Her phone was full of photos of stray cats and dogs. She was like a treasure chest. The more you dug, the more surprises you found. Meanwhile, the Sterling and Thorne families had completely exploded. My phone was blowing up. My dad, my mom, my grandfather, and various people from the Sterling family bombarded me in turns. Annoyed, I put it directly into airplane mode. Even if the sky fell, it could wait until I woke up. On the internet, news about Thorne-Sterling marriage mutation, groom swaps bride on the spot, had surged to the #1 trending topic. Various scene videos and photos were flying everywhere. The comment section was even more spectacular. Holy crap. Drama of the year. Rich kid gets married. Bride isn't the original, it's the mistress. Oh wait, it's the simp taking the throne. Don't talk nonsense upstairs. Didn't you watch the video? That Victoria Sterling raised the price at the last minute, demanding land worth billions. Her greed was too ugly. Exactly. Julian played this beautifully, cutting losses when necessary, not taking that crap. I'm a fan now. That new bride is so pretty. Crying like a pear blossom bathed in rain. I feel sorry just looking at her. Has anyone dug it up? Who is the bride? Soon insiders jumped out. Emily Vance, our high school beauty queen. She's super nice, just a bit introverted. She's like Julian for years. Our whole school knew. Right, I remember too. Back when Julian was chasing Victoria, Emily would follow behind like a little tail. It was heartbreaking to watch. So this is the spare tire strikes back. Unrequited love comes true. Damn, why is this kind of sweet? The direction of public opinion underwent an astonishing reversal in just a few hours. The scum man, Julian, and homewrecker Emily, who should have been condemned by thousands, turned into warriors resisting oppression and a devoted heroine seeing the moonlight through the clouds. And the aloof Ice Queen CEO Victoria Sterling became a gold digger who was insatiable and got what she deserved. Under the hashtag Pity Victoria Sterling, the comments were universally mocking. Pity what? If she had any shame, she wouldn't have pulled this stunt at the wedding. She did it to herself. Who can she blame? Refusing to be a billionaire wife over a piece of land. Now look, the chicken's flown the coop and the eggs are broken. Am I the only one who feels this is incredibly satisfying? I hate these self-righteous women the most. Victoria looked at these comments on her phone, shaking with rage, and smashed her phone directly against the wall. Where is the PR department? Are they all dead? Letting this news ferment online. She roared in her office. Ms. Sterling, we tried our best, but the other side's PR team is too powerful. Our posts get deleted as soon as they go up, and the bot accounts were all banned. The PR manager answered tremblingly. The other side? Victoria's eyes sharpened. Julian, since when did that useless playboy have such a formidable PR team? Check. Investigate for me. I want to see who is helping him from behind the shadows. I naturally didn't know about Victoria's meltdown. At this moment, I was facing a sweet trouble. Emily was drunk. The Moscato had a kick, and she couldn't hold her liquor well. After a few glasses, she was completely dizzy. She leaned against me softly like a boneless cat, mumbling words. Julian, my husband, ups, let me touch. As she spoke, her restless little hand began to grope my stomach through my shirt. My body stiffened, and a heat instantly surged to my lower abdomen. Damn it, who could withstand this? I grabbed her wandering hand, my voice a bit hoarse. Don't move around. No. I want to touch. She was relentless, even trying to nuzzle her head against me. I took a deep breath, telling myself to stay calm. This is a mainstream novel. We can't write explicit scenes. I scooped her up by the waist. She was light. I could pick her up with one arm. Wow, I'm flying. She giggled in my arms, wrapping her arms tightly around my neck. I carried her into the master bedroom and gently placed her on that oversized wedding bed. Rose petals were still scattered on the sheets, contrasting with her flushed cheeks, breathtakingly beautiful. I tucked her in, preparing to sleep in the guest room. Just as I turned, the corner of my clothes was tugged. I looked back to see Emily staring at me with big, watery eyes, looking pitiful. Where? Where are you going? I'm going to the guest room to sleep. No. She shook her head, her eyes reddening again. Do you despise me? No. I felt somewhat helpless. Then why won't you sleep with me? We are already husband and wife. When she said this, her voice got smaller and smaller until it was almost inaudible. Looking at her like this, I sighed in my heart. Fina, I'm a grown man. Am I afraid of her? I lay down on the other side of the bed, separated by a distinct boundary line. Sleep, I said. MHM. She responded obediently and closed her eyes. The room returned to silence. I thought she had fallen asleep. Just as I was about to relax, a soft body rolled over, wrapping around me like an octopus. Her face buried into my chest, warm breath spraying on my skin. Julian, she called my name like she was talking in her sleep. I like you so much. My heart skipped a beat violently. The next day, I woke up to the sound of a ringtone. Sunlight spilled in through the floor-to-ceiling window, warm and bright. I moved my body, feeling numbness in my arm. Looking down, Emily was hanging onto me like a koala, her head resting on my arm, sleeping soundly. Her eyelashes were long, like two small fans, trembling slightly with her breath. Asleep, she had shed her daytime shyness and restraint, adding a touch of defenseless reliance. The phone was still ringing tirelessly. Afraid of waking her, I carefully extracted my arm, picked up the phone, and looked. It was my mom. I tiptoed to the balcony and answered the call. You brat, you finally know to answer the phone. My mom's full-throated roar came from the other end. Mom, keep it down. Emily is still sleeping. I lowered my voice. Oh, you know how to care for your wife now. My mom's tone softened, but still carried a hint of dissatisfaction. What happened with you yesterday? Such a big thing, and you didn't discuss it with us. Sudden situation, no time, I said concisely. No time? I think you planned this long ago. Mom huffed. Your dad and I saw it. When you proposed, you were so practiced, and the ring size was perfect. I touched my nose, saying nothing. A mother knows her son. All right, what's done is done. You're dad, and I can't be bothered to lecture you. Mom changed the subject. We never liked that Victoria Sterling anyway. Walking around with a stinking face all day like everyone owed her $8 million. It's good you switched. Saves you from suffering later. As for that child, Emily, we've met her a few times. She's a good kid, well-behaved and sensible. Since you married her, treat her well from now on. No more fooling around like before. Hear me? I know, Mom. Remember to bring Emily home for dinner today. Let your grandfather see her too. The old man was so angry yesterday, he almost ate his blood pressure meds like rice. You coax him properly. Okay. Hanging up the phone, I breathed a sigh of relief. The family side was handled. I returned to the room. Emily was awake, sitting on the bed hugging the quilt in a daze. Seeing me enter, her face flushed red instantly. Morning, I greeted her with a smile. Morning. Her voice was thin as a mosquito's buzz. The brave words and groping hands from her drunken state last night were playing on loop in her mind like a slideshow. She wished she could find a crack in the floor to crawl into. I didn't do anything weird last night, did I? She asked carefully, clinging to a shred of hope. I walked to the bedside, leaned down, got close to her face, and curled my lips into a wicked smile. What do you think? I pointed to my lips. There was a faint tooth mark. This and this. I pointed to my neck where there were a few ambiguous red marks. Are all your masterpieces? Emily's face was red enough to bleed. She shrieked, pulled the quilt over her head, and rolled around on the bed. I can't face anyone. I can't face anyone. Watching her like this, I couldn't help laughing out loud. This girl was just too cute. When I laughed enough, I dug her out of the quilt. All right, not teasing you anymore. I ruffled her hair. Get up and wash. My mom wants us home for dinner. Huh? Meeting the parents? Emily's nervousness returned instantly. The ugly daughter-in-law has to meet the in-laws eventually, let alone you're so pretty. I scrape her nose. Relax, my parents both like you very much. Under my comfort, Emily got out of bed, half believing. In the walk-in closet, half was Victoria's clothes, the other half empty. I had Marcus contact luxury stores directly, sending over all the new arrivals of the season in Emily's size. Watching rows of clothes and bags being brought in, Emily was dumbfounded. Isn't this too much? Not much. My wife's closet must be full. I grabbed a white Chanel-style dress and handed it to her. Change into this. Let me see. Emily obediently changed. When she walked out of the fitting room, my eyes lit up. The white dress accentuated her purity and gentleness, the perfect cut outlining her fine figure. Does it look good? She twirled unconfidently. Beautiful. I stepped forward and adjusted her collar. My wife looks good in everything. After breakfast, I took Emily back to the Thorne family estate. Along the way, Emily was so nervous her palms were sweating. Don't be nervous. Just treat it like your own home. I held her hand, reassuring her. MHM. She nodded, but her body was still tense. The car drove into the estate. My parents were already waiting at the door. Seeing us get out, my mom immediately welcomed us with a face full of smiles. Oh my, Emily's here. Come in. She affectionately took Emily's hand. If one didn't know better, they'd think Emily was her biological daughter. Hello, Uncle. Hello, Auntie. Emily greeted nervously. What Uncle and Auntie? Time to change how you address us. Mom chided. Emily's face turned redder, and she whispered, Dad, Mom. Aye, good child. Mom couldn't stop smiling. She took a jade bracelet of excellent quality off her wrist and slid it onto Emily's hand. Here, this is the change of address fee from Mom. My dad also fished out a thick red envelope from his pocket and handed it over. Emily looked at me for help. I nodded. Mom and Dad gave it. Take it. Only then did she dare accept. In the living room, my grandfather, Silas Thorne, was sitting in the main seat holding a cup of tea, his face serious. He was the anchor of the Thorne family, the founder of the Thorne Group, a legend who had dominated the business world for a lifetime. Grandfather. I stepped forward and called out respectfully. The old man harumphed, not even lifting his eyelids. You still not come back? I thought you didn't want this family anymore. I knew he was still angry about yesterday. I signaled Emily with my eyes. Emily understood. Though afraid, she summoned her courage, stepped forward, took a cup of freshly brewed tea from my mom, and offered it with both hands. Grandfather, please have some tea. Her voice was soft and sweet. The old man lifted his eyes and sized her up. The girl before him was dressed appropriately, her brow clear, eyes lucid. Though there was a trace of timidity, her posture was upright, neither humble nor arrogant. HM, much more pleasing to the eye than that Victoria Sterling whose eyes were on top of her head. The old man's expression softened a bit, and he took the teacup. You are Emily? Yes, grandfather. MHM. The old man took a sip of tea, considering it an acceptance of this granddaughter-in-law. A family storm was dissolved by a cup of tea from Emily. My mom watched from the side, clicking her tongue in wonder, praising my good taste this time. Meanwhile, in the CEO's office of Sterling Corp, the atmosphere was freezing. What did you say? The West City development project we submitted was rejected. Victoria looked at the documents in her hand, her face ugly. Yes, Ms. Sterling. The project manager wiped cold sweat. The reason is, our qualification audit didn't pass. Impossible. Victoria slammed the table. We prepared for this project for 6 months. All qualification documents are complete. How can we not pass? It's the Thorn Group, the project manager whispered. They also bid, and they hired the top team in the industry. Our proposal had no advantage in front of theirs. Thorn Group, Victoria froze. Julian, that playboy who only knew how to eat, drink, and be merry. When did he learn to interfere in company business? No, not Mr. Thorn. The project manager shook his head. It's the Thorn Group's Marcus. I heard that lately. He's been acting like he's on steroids, leading the team to secure several major projects in a row. His methods are extremely fierce. Marcus? That follower assistant by Julian's side? Victoria's brows knitted tightly, a bad premonition rising in her heart. She immediately picked up the phone and dialed a number. Hello, look into the Thorn Group's recent movements for me, especially Julian and his assistant Marcus. She wanted to see exactly what ghost these two were playing at. After lunch at the Thorns, I took Emily to the Vance family home. Compared to the gentle breeze and mild rain of my house, the atmosphere at the Vances was thunder and lightning. Emily's father, Robert Vance, was an entrepreneur with a military background. He had a fiery temper and meant exactly what he said. As soon as we entered, we saw him sitting on the living room sofa with a dark face. On the coffee table in front of him lay a golf club. Emily's mother, Martha, was crying anxiously on the side. Emily, you child, how could you be so muddled? Seeing Emily, Martha rushed up, checking her left and right. Did you suffer? Did that Julian Thorn bully you? Mom, I'm fine, Emily whispered. You still say you're fine? Marriage is a major life event. How can you treat it like a game? Robert slammed the table, his voice loud as a bell, making Emily tremble. I stepped forward, shielding Emily behind me, meeting Robert's gaze neither humbly nor arrogantly. Sir, this matter is my fault. If you want to blame someone, blame me. If I wonder who it was. Turns out it's that rascal from the Thorn family. Robert looked me up and down, his eyes sharp as if trying to poke 2 holes in me. I heard yesterday at your wedding. You used my daughter as a spare tire and proposed on the spot. I didn't use Emily as a spare tire. I met his gaze, my tone firm. I sincerely want to marry her. Sincerely? Robert sneered. How much is the sincerity of you rich kids worth? Sincere today, change of heart tomorrow. Dad, it's not like that. Emily got anxious, peeking out from behind me. Julian, he treats me very well. What do you know? Robert scolded. You don't even know you've been tricked by his sweet words. Saying this, he picked up the golf club from the coffee table. I have to beat some sense into this brat today. Let him know the daughters of the Vance family aren't so easily bullied. Martha screamed in fright and rushed to stop him. Emily turned pale with fear. I didn't move, just watching him quietly. Sir, if beating me can vent your anger and make you agree to let Emily and me be together, then I absolutely won't fight back. Robert's hand, holding the club, froze in midair. He looked at the young man before him. Clear eyes, straight spine, without a hint of fear or retreat. This was different from the greasy playboy he had imagined. You think I don't dare to hit you? Robert said, trying to look tough. I don't think that. I smiled, took a small gift box from my pocket, and handed it over. This is a gift I prepared for you and Martha. I hope you like it. Robert looked suspiciously and didn't take it. Martha curiously took it, opened it, and gasped. Inside the box were a pair of crystal-clear jade thumb rings and a jade bracelet of the same material. Bob, look, this is Imperial Green Jade. Martha's voice changed with excitement. Robert knew his goods. He leaned in for a look, pupils shrinking violently. These jade pieces had full translucency and perfect color. They were true top-tier Imperial Green, priceless and rare. This gesture wasn't something an ordinary rich kid could produce. What is the meaning of this? Trying to buy us off with money. Robert's tone softened unconsciously. This isn't buying you off. It's a betrothal gift, I corrected. I know measuring Emily with money is disrespectful to her, but this represents my sincerity. The Thorne family sincerely wants to welcome Emily through our doors. I paused and continued. I know what you're worried about. You're worried I'm acting on impulse. Worried I'll treat Emily poorly later. I can't guarantee anything with words, but I will prove it with actions. Starting today, I will gradually transfer all shares of the Thorne Group to Emily's name. I will make her the true mistress of the Thorne Group. I will add her name to all my personal assets. I will be good to her for a lifetime. My words plunged the Vance living room into a dead silence. Robert and Martha were too shocked to speak. Transferring group shares to a wife? In the circle of wealthy families, this was unheard of. This meant Julian was practically handing his life and fortune over to Emily. If this wasn't true love, what was? Emily was moved to a mess, tears swirling in her eyes as she looked at my back. This man, to reassure her parents, was willing to go this far. Are you telling the truth? Robert finally found his voice, full of uncertainty. A gentleman's word is his bond. I looked at him, speaking with conviction. Tomorrow, I will have the lawyers start the paperwork. Robert fell silent. He looked at me for a long, long time. Finally, he sighed deeply and put down the golf club. Fine. He waved his hand, looking weary. Since Emily is willing herself, what can I, as a father, say? Remember what you said today. If you dare treat Emily badly in the future, I'll fight you with this old life of mine. You have my word. I nodded solemnly. Another family storm was dissolved by my money power and sincerity. When we left the Vance house, the look Emily gave me was practically sticky with affection. Julian, she followed behind me, calling softly. You don't really have to give me the shares. She whispered. I know you did it to reassure my parents. Who said it was for them? I stopped and pinched her cheek. I did it to reassure you. What's mine is yours. Why separate it so clearly? From now on, I'm responsible for making money, and you're responsible for being beautiful. Emily, responsible for being beautiful. Vance was made dizzy by my words, giggling foolishly as I stuffed her into the car. Meanwhile, Victoria finally got the investigation report she wanted. Looking at the items listed one by one regarding the Thorne Group's recent commercial moves, her face grew darker and darker. In just 3 days, Marcus, the assistant she had always looked down upon, under Julian's instruction, had sniped 3 important cooperative projects of Sterling Corp and stolen 2 major clients. The methods were fast, accurate, and ruthless, every strike hitting Sterling Corp's weak points. How could these be decisions made by a useless playboy? This was clearly a commercial genius strategizing from behind the scenes. Julian, who exactly are you? Victoria gripped the report, murmuring to herself. She deeply doubted her past judgments for the first time. She discovered she seemed to have never truly known the man who had followed her for 3 years. Even more shocking news arrived quickly. Ms. Sterling, bad news. The secretary ran in frantically. The Thorne Group just issued an announcement. Mr. Thorne, Julian is transferring all Thorne shares under his name to his newlywed wife, Ms. Emily Vance, free of charge. What? Victoria stood up abruptly, the report scattering on the floor. The Thorne Group's announcement was like a heavy bomb, exploding in the entire business world and high society. Hashtag Julian Thorne transfers all shares to new wife. This hashtag climbed to the top of the trending list with destructive force. Everyone went crazy. Holy crap, what kind of god-tier romance is this? I am jealous. This isn't just love. This is giving his life to the other person, right? Swapped brides the day before yesterday. Gifting shares today? Julian is for real. Boo-hoo. Did that girl named Emily save the galaxy in her past life? I want someone to love me like this too. At Victoria Sterling, come out and look. This is the man you didn't want. Lost a multi-billion-dollar empire for a piece of land worth peanuts in comparison. Regret it yet? Online, the evaluation of me had shifted from well done to peerless good man, and Emily became the most envied woman on the internet. Victoria's name was dragged out for public execution again. Ridicule, sarcasm, pity. Voices of all kinds rang out incessantly. Victoria looked at her phone, her face pale. Of course she regretted it. She regretted it until her insides turned green. She had always thought Julian couldn't leave her, that the Thornes needed the Sterling's cooperation. That was why she dared to be so fearless. But now, reality gave her a resounding slap. Not only did Julian leave her, but he was also doing better than before. He was no longer the shadow following her. He had transformed into a behind-the-scenes boss stirring up the business world. He had found a new woman and spoiled her to the heavens. And that woman was the one she looked down on the most, Emily Vance. Why? Why could the worthless Emily receive such treatment from Julian? The flames of jealousy burned fiercely in Victoria's heart. She wasn't resigned. She didn't believe Julian could truly fall in love with Emily. This must be his scheme. It was to revenge her, to provoke her. Yes, it must be so. As long as she went to soften up and apologize, Julian would definitely change his mind. After all, they had 3 years of emotional foundation. Thinking of this, Victoria immediately grabbed her car keys and rushed out. At this moment, I was accompanying Emily on the balcony of our penthouse, watching the stars. I had someone bring a comfortable lounge chair, and the small table beside it held a fruit platter and her favorite milk tea. Julian, those things online, are they true? Emily leaned in my arms, asking softly. MHM, the lawyers are already processing it. I held her, smelling the fragrance in her hair. But that's too much. She still felt it was unreal. I didn't do anything, just... Who says you didn't do anything? I interrupted her. You did the most important thing. What thing? She looked up curiously. You gave me a home. I lowered my head and kissed her forehead. Emily's heart was instantly filled with sweetness. She spoke no more, just hugged me tighter. Just then my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I didn't want to answer, but it kept ringing, threatening to ring until the end of time if I didn't pick up. I answered helplessly. Hello. Julian, it's me. From the other end came a familiar, icy voice. Victoria. I frowned. What is it? I'm downstairs at your apartment. I want to see you. Her voice carried a trace of imperceptible weakness. We have nothing to see each other about. I refused directly. Julian, don't be like this. Victoria's tone became urgent. I know you're still angry with me. What happened at the wedding was wrong of me. I apologize to you. I was just misled by my mother and my uncle. I was confused for a moment. Oh, I responded flatly. You gave the shares to Emily just to spite me, right? She continued on her own. I know you still have me in your heart. You just want to use this method to make me regret, to make me turn back. I almost laughed out of anger at her logic. Who gave this woman such confidence? Ms. Sterling, let me say this once more. Everything I do is only for my wife, Emily. It has not a dime to do with you. Stop flattering yourself. With that, I hung up directly and blocked the number. Emily had been listening quietly, not interrupting. Only after I hung up did she ask softly, Is it Victoria? MHM. Did she misunderstand something? Ignore her. I tossed the phone aside and pinched her cheek. An irrelevant person isn't worth wasting our time. Now let's do something meaningful. What thing? Emily blinked. I leaned down to her ear and whispered a few words. Emily's face exploded red instantly. She punched me lightly, whining, You're so bad. Downstairs, Victoria froze listening to the disconnect tone on her phone. He hung up on her. He blocked her. How dare he? A wave of humiliation like never before surged in her heart. As the dignified CEO of Sterling Corp, when had she ever received such treatment? Refusing to believe it, she switched phones to call again, but the result was still being hung up on. Victoria was so angry she nearly smashed the phone. She looked up at the apartment lit with warm lights, her eyes filled with spite and unwillingness. She didn't believe Julian could be so heartless. She decided to wait here. She didn't believe he wouldn't come down eventually. So, on that cool autumn night, the noble CEO Victoria Sterling, wearing a brand-name suit and stepping in high heels, stood like a resentful ghost downstairs at Julian's apartment all night. Meanwhile, the male lead she was waiting for was sleeping soundly, holding his new wife. Early the next morning, Marcus's call came right on time. Mr. Thorne, that person downstairs, stood there all night. Should we send someone to ask her to leave? I was tying an apron, making breakfast for Emily in the open kitchen. The sunlight plated me with a golden edge, 8-pack abs faintly visible under thin loungewear. Emily sat by the bar, chin in hand, looking at me with hard eyes. Ignore her. I cracked an egg with one hand, landing it perfectly in the center of the pan. If she likes standing, let her stand. When she's tired, she'll leave naturally. Okay. Marcus paused, then reported. Also, regarding Sterling Corp, the board held an emergency meeting overnight. Due to the failure of several major projects recently and the negative impact of her personal life on the company, Victoria Sterling has been suspended from her duties as CEO. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. This was unexpected. I thought those old fogies in the Sterling family would fight to keep her. Yes, her uncle, Lewis, has taken over. I heard this, Mr. Lewis doesn't quite get along with you. Marcus sounded worried. Uncle Lewis? I thought for a moment and remembered. In the original book, it was this Lewis who colluded with outsiders to hollow out Sterling Corp. eventually blaming it all on Victoria. He was a smiling tiger. He does not get along with me. He doesn't get along with money. I smiled, plating the heart-shaped egg. Ignore him, let him act out. The more he acts out, the faster Sterling Corp dies. Understood. Hanging up, I brought breakfast to Emily. Wow, smells so good. Emily looked at the heart-shaped egg, bacon, and toast on the plate, eyes shining. Eat up, little glutton. I rubbed her head. Emily picked up her knife and fork, carefully cut a small piece of egg, and put it in her mouth. Delicious. She narrowed her eyes in happiness. If it's good, eat more. Just as we were enjoying a warm breakfast time, the doorbell rang suddenly. I frowned. Who had come so early? Checking the visual doorbell, the screen showed a haggard and unwilling face. Victoria Sterling. She actually came up. Julian, open the door. I know you're in there. She pounded on the door, her voice shrill. Emily heard the noise too and looked over nervously. I gave her a reassuring look and pressed the talk button directly. Ms. Sterling, early in the morning, what business do you have? My voice held no warmth. Julian, let me in, let's talk. We have nothing to talk about. Did you know? I've been suspended. Victoria's voice carried a hint of sobbing. You did this, right? To take revenge on me. You colluded with the board to take me down. I was almost amused by her thought process. Ms. Sterling, do you have a persecution complex? I spend all day with my wife. Where'd I find the time to manage Sterling Corp's mess? You're lying. I don't have time to waste breath on you. I couldn't be bothered to pay attention to her anymore, preparing to turn off the intercom. Just then, Emily walked over, peeked out from behind me, and flashed a sweet smile at the screen. Morning, Victoria. Have you had breakfast? Want to join us? My husband makes delicious breakfast. As she spoke, she deliberately held up the piece of heart-shaped egg in her hand. Victoria on the screen, upon seeing Emily, shrank her pupils violently. Emily wore cute cartoon pajamas, hair loosely tied up, face bare of makeup, yet still fresh and moving. That appearance was clearly the mistress of this home. And herself, having blown in the cold wind downstairs all night. Makeup ruined, hair messy, looking pathetic as a beggar. The intense contrast was like a knife stabbing fiercely into Victoria's heart. Emily, you. She pointed at Emily, too angry to speak. Victoria, don't blame Julian. Emily said with a face full of innocence. This is just his temper. He has no patience for people he doesn't like. Unlike with me, he's so gentle. Saying this, she stood on tiptoes and planted a kiss on my cheek. Hubby, am I right? I suppressed my laughter and nodded cooperatively. Wifey is always right. This scene was transmitted clearly to Victoria's eyes through the screen. Watching our intimate interaction, watching the happy yet provocative smile on Emily's face, she felt her lungs were about to explode. Yep, you too. She finally broke down, pointing at the screen, screaming hysterically, Julian, you will regret this. Giving me up for such a manipulative woman. You will definitely regret it. Emily, don't be smug. How he treats me today is how he'll treat you tomorrow. You thief. Robber. Listening to her insults, my face darkened. Security. I pressed another call button. Mr. Thorne, instructions. Please remove the lady at the door. In the future, if she comes within 100 meters of this building, call the police directly. Yes, sir. Soon, 2 security guards appeared on the screen, flanking the still tantrum-throwing Victoria and dragging her directly into the elevator. The world was finally quiet. I turned off the screen and looked back. Emily had her head down, twisting her fingers, looking like she'd done something wrong. Was I too mean? She asked softly. Looking at her, I suddenly laughed out loud. I pulled her into my arms and gave her a hard kiss. No, my wife was absolutely cool just now. My little rabbit finally learned to bite. Wonderful. Praised by me. Emily's face turned red again, but the corners of her mouth couldn't help turning up. Then, can I do that in the future? She asked tentatively. Of course. I pinched her nose. Whoever dares to bully you, you bully them back double. If the sky falls, I'll hold it up for you. With my backing, Emily's courage gradually grew. She was no longer that timid little girl hiding behind me. She began learning to manage company affairs. Though there was much she didn't understand, she learned seriously. I would show her some unimportant documents and explain them patiently. She would also accompany me quietly while I worked, bringing me tea or massaging my shoulders. Our life was sweet as honey. During this time, I took her abroad to make up for a honeymoon. We kissed under the Eiffel Tower in Paris, strolled on the beaches of the Aegean Sea, and boated in the water city of Venice. I used a camera to record every one of her happy moments. After returning to the country, an unexpected surprise was waiting for us. One day, I accompanied Emily to the hospital for a routine checkup. When we got the report, the doctor looked at us with a meaningful smile. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Thorne. Mrs. Thorne is 6 weeks pregnant. Emily and I were petrified on the spot. We looked at each other, seeing the same shock and ecstasy in each other's eyes. I'm going to be a father. I felt my voice floating. I'm going to be a mother. Emily covered her mouth, tears surging instantly. The doctor smiled and nodded. Yes, the baby is very healthy. However, pay attention to rest in the early stages. Don't get too tired. Walking out of the hospital, we were both still a bit dizzy. I supported Emily carefully, terrified she might bump into something. My nervous appearance drew side eyes from passers-by. Getting into the car, my first act was calling Marcus. Marcus! My voice was loud with excitement. Mr. Thorne, I'm here. Immediately. Right now. Contact the world's best obstetrics experts, nutritionists, and nannies. Form a team. On call 24 hours. Also, wrap up anything with sharp corners in the house. Change the carpets to the softest ones. Air purifiers, humidifiers, replace them all with top-of-the-line models. Additionally, go buy me 10,000 parenting books. From pregnancy to college, I want them all. I fired off a dozen orders in a row, speaking as fast as a rapper. Marcus on the other end was dumbfounded. Mr. Thorne, does this mean the madam is expecting? Duh, I yelled, then couldn't help laughing again. I'm gonna be a dad. Ha ha ha. My laughter transmitted through the phone to the entire executive office of the Thorne Group. Everyone heard their usually aloof assistant Marcus muttering in a sleepwalking tone, "Oh God." Mr. Thorne laughed. The news spread through both our families quickly. My mom and mother-in-law charged over that very day, flanking Emily like she was a national treasure. My dad and father-in-law, though still maintaining a facade, couldn't hide the joy in their upturned lips. My grandfather was even more direct, announcing on the spot he would gift a historic courtyard house to the great-grandchild about to be born. Julian Thorne completely fell out of favor. Before, I was the family treasure. Now, the little bean in Emily's belly was. My daily task was cooking delicious food for Emily in various ways. Emily didn't have much morning sickness, but her taste became very picky. Sour today, spicy tomorrow. Once at 3 a.m., she shook me awake saying she wanted cheesecake from a specific famous bakery downtown. Without a word, I dressed and went out. When I returned with the cheesecake, she was already asleep. Watching her sweet, sleeping face, I had no temper at all, just a heart full of softness. I put the cake in the fridge for when she woke up. These days, though busy, were filled with happiness. Just as our whole family was immersed in joy, something happened at Sterling Corp. Uncle Lewis, who replaced Victoria, was an incompetent dreamer. After taking office, eager to prove himself, he blindly invested in several high-risk projects, losing everything. He also embezzled, secretly transferring company funds to his overseas accounts. In just a few months, the once glorious Sterling Corp was turned into a smoky mess by him, debt-ridden. The board finally realized something was wrong, but it was too late. Uncle Lewis took the money and ran, leaving behind a mess and massive debt. Banks came knocking, suppliers blocked the door, employees panicked. Sterling Corp was on the verge of bankruptcy overnight. Victoria's father suffered a stroke from anger and was hospitalized. The Sterling family's sky had collapsed. At this time, everyone remembered the Victoria they had ousted. The board, even her father, hoped she could return to turn the tide and save the company. But the current Sterling Corp was a bottomless pit. Whoever returned would die. Victoria locked herself in her room for 3 days and 3 nights. She looked out the window, eyes empty. She thought of Julian, thought of the man who used to follow her, his heart and eyes full of her. If she hadn't done that back then, if she had married him, then now, facing all this, it wouldn't be her alone. Julian would definitely help her. With his ability, saving a small Sterling Corp would be effortless. But there were no ifs. It was her own hands that pushed away the man who could have sheltered her from the wind and rain. It was her own hands that destroyed everything. Regret gnawed at her heart like a viper. Just when she was in total despair, an unexpected person found her. Emily. In a coffee shop, Emily sat opposite Victoria, quietly stirring the coffee in her cup. She wore a loose maternity dress, her lower abdomen slightly raised, her face carrying the gentle glow of motherhood. Compared to her, Victoria opposite was haggard, eyes dim, like a flower that had lost all water and was about to wither. "What are you here for?" Victoria spoke first, voice hoarse. "To see a joke? I'm not that bored." Emily put down the spoon, looked up, and watched her calmly. Then to show off? Show off how well you're doing? Show off that you stole everything of mine. Victoria's tone was full of sharp sarcasm. Emily didn't get angry, just smiled faintly. Victoria, you're wrong. I never stole anything of yours. Julian isn't an object. He is a living person with his own thoughts and feelings. He chose me not because I'm better than you, but simply because when he needed warmth the most, I happened to be by his side. And you, when he needed you most, chose to measure your relationship with profit. Emily's words were like a knife, accurately stabbing into Victoria's heart. Victoria's face paled further. She opened her mouth, but was powerless to refute. I know about Sterling Corp's situation. Emily took a document from her bag and pushed it across. What is this? Victoria looked at her warily. An acquisition proposal, Emily said. The Thorn Group is prepared to fully acquire Sterling Corp and help you solve all debt problems. Victoria's pupils shrank violently. She picked up the document and flipped through it quickly. The terms were so generous, she didn't dare believe it. Not only was the Thorn Group willing to assume all debts, but they were also willing to retain the brand and most employees and even willing to let her continue as CEO. This wasn't an acquisition. This was clearly charity. What? Victoria looked up, staring at Emily with complex eyes. Why would Julian do this? Doesn't he hate me? He doesn't hate you. Emily shook her head. He's just disappointed in you. As for why he's helping you, Emily paused, reached out, and gently stroked her own belly. Because I don't want my child to hear any negative comments about his father in the future. I don't want people saying his father left his former fiancée to die, that he was ruthless. Julian is a good man, and I want everyone to know that. Emily's words left Victoria completely stunned. She looked at this gentle-faced girl before her, feeling a mix of emotions. She had always thought Emily was a manipulative schemer, but now she realized Emily was truly kind. A kind of pure goodness she could never learn. So this was your idea? Victoria's voice trembled. It was our idea, Emily corrected. I just suggested it. He made the final decision. Victoria's eyes reddened. She looked at the acquisition proposal in her hand. The clauses seemed to transform into Julian's face. That man, clearly heartbroken by her, still pulled her up when she was most pathetic. Not out of love, but because of the woman beside him. To prevent his wife and unborn child from facing criticism, he was willing to help the person he wanted to see least. How deep was this affection, and how ironic. Victoria finally understood. She had lost completely. She lost to Emily's kindness, and even more to Julian's love for Emily. I understand. She lowered her head, her voice thick with nasal tones. Tell him. Thank you for me. And I am sorry. This belated apology was finally spoken. But Victoria knew it was all too late. Months later, Emily successfully gave birth to a baby boy. The little guy looked healthy and strong, perfectly inheriting all the merits of Emily and me. I named him Leo Thorn. May he be brave and happy all his life. I completely devolved into a doting dad. My greatest daily joy was holding my son, changing diapers, feeding him, and singing lullabies. As for company matters, I became totally hands-off. Marcus and the elite team he led managed the Thorn Group in perfect order, market value hitting new highs repeatedly. The hashtag Julian Thorn didn't get up today became the barometer for our company's stock price. As long as this tag trended, stockholders knew the Thorn Group was well and could buy with confidence. Sterling Corp, after being acquired, also gradually walked out of its predicament. Victoria changed a lot. She was no longer the iceberg pushing people away. She became steady and introverted. She poured all her energy into work and never had any scandals again. Sometimes she would see our family of 3 walking in the park from afar. I holding Leo, Emily holding my arm, sunlight spilling on us, warm and blinding. She would watch quietly for a while, then turn and leave lonely. She knew that happiness had nothing to do with her anymore. She had lost the most beautiful thing in her life with her own hands. And I finally lived the lying flat life I dreamed of. I had a lovely wife, a cute son, endless money, and a group of capable subordinates. I felt I might be the happiest transmigrator in the world. On a sunny afternoon, I held Leo, basking in the sun on the balcony. Emily leaned beside me, reading me the news. Hubby, look, the internet is talking about you again. Saying what? Saying you are the last deep affection of the 21st century, model of male virtue, the ceiling of doting husbands. Listening to these titles, I couldn't help laughing. I wasn't some deep lover. I just met the right person at the right time. I lowered my head, kissed the little guy in my arms, then turned my head to kiss the lover beside me. Wifey, Thank you. Thank you for appearing in my life, giving meaning to my boring, aimless life. Story complete.